The United States first imposed an arms embargo on Cuba on March 14, 1958 during the armed conflict between Fidel Castro's rebels and Fulgencio Batista's regime. After Castro's communist government came to power on January 1, 1959, the United States started to take notice of Castro's new regime, but did nothing at first. However, when the Cuban government increased their trade with the Soviet Union, raised taxes on American imports, and began nationalizing American property like oil refineries, the United States fought back with many different embargoes. The connections from Cuba to the United States were all cut by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he made restrictions against everything except food and medicine, initially, but later placed an embargo on nearly all imports to Cuba. Embargoes like the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961 and the Cuban Assets Control Regulation of 1963 prevented any sort of trade with American and Cuban companies, isolating the island as a result. All of these acts restricting the freedom of Cuba came about because of Fidel Castro's actions within his newly formed government during the year of 1959. The increasing support of communism and Marxism by the Cuban government caused Dwight D. Eisenhower to instruct the CIA to form a brigade that would invade Cuba and silence the communist voices that frightened Americans so much. The invasion, which took place on April 17, 1961 after Kennedy's approval, came to be known as the Invasion of the Bay of Pigs. The idea of an invasion to end the communist regime in Cuba seemed like a great idea, but when it was actually attempted, it was a horrible failure, and the American invaders were stopped within 3 days by Castro's forces. The defeat of the Americans by the Cubans inspired the communist leaders and caused the Cuban government to officially declare its belief in Marxism. Also, the Cuban Missile Crisis forced the United States to install a naval blockade to ensure that no more missiles could arrive in Cuba from the Soviet Union. These events, along with a few other occurrences, effectively forced the U.S.'s hand to make sure that the embargoes against Cuba stay in effect for as long as possible.